Okay, so I just dropped my kids off at school, and I figured that I would take a few minutes just to answer a couple questions regarding the post about the gypsy vanner and how he was placed with an 11-year-old through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I'm going to share that story with you now and make a quick video just describing what happened with this gelding, this gypsy gelding. So I got a call from a client that he was in need of being placed, and since they were the breeders, the new owner who currently had him in her possession reached out to them and asked if they wanted him back. Offered them first right of refusal. They had no use for a gelding, so they contacted me and thought that maybe I would be interested in owning one of their gypsy vanners. Of course, super related, I jumped on the opportunity. Sadly, the person that currently owned him and was looking for him to be placed was in stage 4 cancer, and so she was pretty ill. Due to that, she hadn't been working in quite some time, and so a lot of his care kind of fell at the wayside because she was unable to afford it. So he had not been vaccinated, his feet had not been done, his teeth had not been floated, etc. Luckily, they lived in Oklahoma, so he was on pretty nice pasture and was of good weight. So we stepped in. We paid for the veterinary exam and expenses to have him treated, and a health certificate in Coggins pulled to have him shipped here to Colorado. We then paid for transport to go there, pick him up, and bring him to our facility. Once at our facility, we quickly learned that he was barely halter broke and was a little bit of a bully. Some of those gypsies can be that way. And so he was started under saddle and had him going pretty decently. He and I were just not a good match. Some horses you have to kind of recognize and admit to yourself, as prideful as we can be sometimes, that it is just not going to work. Our personalities did not mesh, and so he was a bit stubborn, and so am I. Like, I want to continue with something to help the horse learn and progress, and he just was not willing. So he needed a different avenue and a different approach, and so recognizing that, I started to just lightly put the word out that he was available through word of mouth. And so he quickly had a lot of interest. I had a lot of interest in him. People, he's beautiful, was royally bred, papered, registered, everything. And so had a lot of great offers. So having been offered some substantial offers and considered them, I just couldn't do it. I could not sell this horse because it just did not feel right in my gut. And I am a firm believer in intuition and gut instinct, and so I listened to that. And so, again, had some substantial offers for him, but just didn't accept them. And it was maybe 2 months into, strongly considering selling him, that I was contacted by Make-A-Wish. And so they had an 11-year-old cancer survivor that this was her wish, was to have a gypsy. And so I explained to them the situation, that he was a very highly sought after bloodline of gypsy vanner. He was just green broke, just started under saddle, but that if they were willing to cover the expense of an additional 90 days under saddle in training, that I would be willing to let him go to them for a significantly reduced price in order to grant this wish. And that being if the child, this little girl, and this horse matched. So if their personalities meshed. So we scheduled a meet and greet the day after she was released from the hospital to come and see him. And she came to the barn, met him. I even put her on him bareback, and it was like, that's what he was waiting for. He was a perfect angel with her. It was like he was waiting for her to come for him. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing. So long story short, Make-A-Wish purchased this horse for her. I took him over to a friend's facility because I just didn't have the time to continue his training. I had 30 horses at our facility, and he was kind of getting left out of the training program as it was. And so I needed for him to be consistent and to be working with her. And so took him over there. They continued 90 days under saddle, and then we did our official Make-A-Wish day. I transported him up to their facility up in Boulder, and they live happily ever after. She's still in remission and doing very well with him. So just one of those God things that I couldn't explain it any other way. The other side of this story, the woman that originally owned him and had to surrender him due to her illness, to her cancer and lymphangitis, we became pretty good friends through this process, and we talked quite a bit. Her daughter just happened to reside in Colorado Springs, which is where we live, as well, and they had been estranged for a number of years, and she just didn't know how to get back in touch with her because her daughter wouldn't respond. And so I became almost a mediator through this process, and finally got them communicating, and then got them back together and in person. So they were communicating, and then got back together in person 2 weeks before she passed. So a mother-daughter relationship was also mended through this process. And I will not forget the night before, we were texting, and she said to me, "Gina, I'm not ready to die." And I just told her that she could rest assured that Spirit, the horse, was going to be taken care of, and that I would take that off of her, and that God would take care of the rest. And she went peacefully that night. So I have to believe that this is all a God thing, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in. This was a higher power intervening, really nudging me with that gut instinct and that feeling that it wasn't right. No matter the amount of money, I was not able and willing to let him go until this little girl came. And it just came full circle. And that's the beauty of rescue. Yes, we rescue these magnificent animals, but somehow throughout the whole process, they rescue us right back. And that's something that I live for every single day. It's bigger and better than any amount of money. Don't get me wrong, money's nice, but the feeling and the satisfaction and the amount of gratitude that you have for humanity and for just the whole process is worth getting up for every single day. It's worth going out in the snowstorms and the negative degree weather and the miserable conditions and the odd hours at night and all the emergencies that we contend with. It's worth it. Moments like this, it's worth it. No, I can't change the world, and I know that. But I feel that if I can change a horse's life, and then through that, a little girl's life, then I'm changing the world for them, for that little girl, for that horse. And that's what it's all about. That's why I do what I do.